Welcome to Forgotten Ties, where we delve into the most mysterious and tragic stories, the threads that have been lost to time. Today, we follow a woman who unknowingly unlocked a door to her own past, a past she didn't even know she had lived. Our story begins on a dreary Saturday afternoon. Elara Vance, a 32-year-old graphic designer with a short platinum bob and jade-green eyes, was wandering through a small, dusty antique shop on the outskirts of Boston. It was a place she loved, not for shopping, but to breathe in the atmosphere of forgotten stories. The smell of old wood, yellowed paper, and dust mingled to create a unique scent that she always found strangely comforting. She never looked for anything specific, she simply let the objects speak to her. But today was different. Her hand suddenly stopped on a worn oak box, forgotten under a pile of outdated photo frames. Inside, there wasn't much, just a few trinkets and a well-worn envelope. She opened it, and a photo fell out. It was a family portrait. The backdrop was a small wooden house, seemingly taken on a summer afternoon. Golden sunlight, like honey, filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow on their radiant faces. At the center of the photo stood a man, tall with messy dark brown hair, wearing a knitted sweater. His smile was gentle, but his eyes held a profound, hidden sadness. His arm was draped around a boy about 5 years old, with light brown curly hair and a small, faint scar just above his eyebrow. The scar, strangely, evoked a shiver of familiarity. But the person who made Elara's heart stop was the woman next to the man. She was wearing a white cotton dress, holding the hand of a little girl about 3 years old with hair as red as a raging fire under the sun. That woman's face, it was Elara's face. The posture, the smile, even the tiny mole hidden behind her left earlobe, they were all identical to hers. Elara's heart pounded in her chest. She looked back at the photo. Could it just be a coincidence? Many people in the world have doppelgangers. But it didn't feel that way. She couldn't explain it, but when she looked into the eyes of the woman in the photo, she saw a connection so deep it was terrifying. It was like looking into a mirror that had been taken from her a long time ago. And then a sharp pain shot through her temple. It wasn't a normal headache, but a sensation as if something was trying to claw its way up from a deep, locked place inside her mind. A child's laughter echoed, then a smell of wood smoke, a feeling of warmth, and a sense of absolute dread. They were all just fragmented, unclear pieces. Elara bought the photo in a hurry, almost in a panic. When she returned to her cozy little apartment, her husband, Julian, was preparing dinner. Julian, a tall man with black hair and a warm smile, always soothed her worries. He was the one who had given her a new life after a period of her life she couldn't remember, after an accident she always felt she shouldn't ask about. "What did you find that makes you look so tense?" Julian asked, his voice full of concern. Elara handed him the photo. Julian took it, the smile on his face fading. His expression hardened, a look flashed across his eyes that Elara had never seen before. For a brief moment, a flicker of fear, anxiety, or even guilt appeared. But then, it vanished as quickly as it came. "This is," he began, his voice catching in his throat. "That's me," Elara whispered. "I'm in that photo, Julian. But I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember this man, I don't remember these children. I don't remember ever living in a place like this." Julian looked at her, then back at the photo. He put the photo down, trying to force a reassuring smile. "I don't know, Elara. Maybe it's just a coincidence. There are many people who look alike in the world." Elara knew he was lying. She looked into his eyes and she saw the truth. A truth that was hidden, buried. A terrifying secret. She knew, by an unexplainable instinct, that this photo was not a coincidence. It was a piece of a stolen life, a life she had forgotten. And she had to find it. From that moment on, Elara's life was divided into two. One half was her current life, peaceful and warm with Julian. The other half was a waking nightmare, haunted by the images of the old photo and the questions that relentlessly pounded in her mind. The smile of the man in the photo, the scar on the boy's eyebrow, the fiery hair of the little girl, they all became an obsession. Elara's curiosity quickly turned into a desperate thirst. She began to spend hours on the internet, searching for keywords like wooden house on the outskirts of Boston, missing family, old photo, house fire accident. But the results were just thousands of irrelevant stories. She went back to the antique shop, but the owner was no longer there. An older woman had taken over, only saying that the previous owner had sold the shop and moved without leaving any information. The mysterious disappearance of the shop owner only made Elara believe something terrifying was happening. In the following days, Elara noticed small, subtle changes in her life. Julian became overly concerned, almost controlling. He always asked her what she was doing, where she was going, and his eyes always followed her, as if he was trying to read her thoughts. When Elara placed the photo on her desk one day, it disappeared. When she asked Julian, he casually replied that he had put it away because I didn't want it to make you sad. That answer didn't reassure her. It sent a chill down her spine. The fractured memories started to appear more frequently. They weren't clear images. Sometimes it was the sound of thunder and the banging of a window. Sometimes it was the smell of damp earth and freshly cut grass. Once, while walking in the park, she saw a boy playing frisbee, and a clear image flashed through her mind, a boy with curly brown hair and a small scar on his eyebrow. Her heart seized up, and an unnamed pain rushed over her. One night, Elara woke up in the middle of a nightmare. She saw herself running, her hand being pulled by a man, behind them a house engulfed in flames. The smell of smoke was acrid and the screams were deafening. Her arm felt a searing burn, a terrifyingly painful sensation. She woke up with a start, drenched in sweat. She looked down at her arm, and in the dim moonlight, she saw a faint, white, strangely shaped scar, like an old burn mark. The scar wasn't small, it was a large one, running from her wrist to her elbow. She had never noticed it before. Elara ran into the bathroom, turned on the bright light, and examined the scar. It was really there. She took a picture with her phone, zooming in on it. It was an old scar, but it didn't match the falling accident story Julian had told her. Elara's heart pounded so hard she thought it was about to burst. There was a truth that had been buried. A truth Julian didn't want her to know. She returned to the bedroom, searching for the photo in the drawers where Julian said he had put it away. She couldn't find it. But she did find a small tin box, hidden at the bottom of the closet. Inside, there was nothing but a thin silver chain. The pendant was a tiny, intricately carved maple leaf. It was old and tarnished. Elara picked up the chain and, immediately, a feeling of unnerving familiarity washed over her. This was not a foreign object. This was hers. But where did it come from? She looked at the photo she had taken on her phone. She zoomed in on the image of the woman in the photo. And then she saw it. In the faint light of the photo, peeking out from behind the collar of the white cotton dress, was a chain with a pendant that looked exactly like a maple leaf. Now Elara knew. She wasn't looking for a woman who looked like her. She was looking for herself. She was looking for a life she had lived, a family she had. A family that had disappeared. She had to find out what happened to them, and Julian, he knew everything. She decided it was time she faced him. She had to find the truth, no matter how painful it was. The truth, Elara realized, wasn't something she could find on the internet. It was in a place she had forgotten. She returned to her fractured memories, the vague images and sounds. The necklace became the key, a thread leading her back to the past. It carried a distinct scent, not of metal, but of a special oil. She knew that scent. It was the scent of her father's carving workshop, where he had taught her how to carve wood. A memory fragment passed, clearer than any other. An oak box, exactly like the one she found in the antique shop. A name carved on it, Liam. That was the man in the photo. It had to be. The name of the man of her first husband. With a name in hand, Elara continued her search. She searched public records, old police reports, local newspaper articles. It took a few days, but finally, she found it. An old story, published in a small local newspaper more than 7 years ago. The headline was a haunting question. Did the Foster family really disappear? The article talked about a young family that vanished after a fire at their wooden house. The house had burned to the ground, but no bodies were found. The police report concluded that they could have fled or been murdered. The foster family. Liam, the husband. Leo, the son. Mia, the daughter. Elara's heart ached. Their names. She could feel the pain of those names, like a tidal wave crashing down from a deep ocean. She had had a family. She had had a life. And it had been cruelly taken from her in a night full of fire and smoke. Meanwhile, Julian became increasingly distant. He was often away, his phone calls were mysterious, and his answers were evasive. When Elara asked him about the scar on her arm, he simply said it was from a childhood accident. He was lying. She knew it. She had seen a similar scar, but in another photo she had found on the internet. The photo was taken the night of the fire, showing a man in a dirty jacket standing outside the burning house. A man with a small scar on his eyebrow. The photo was blurry, but she could see it. Elara confronted Julian. "I found out," she said, her voice trembling. "The scar on my arm, the photo, the necklace. You lied to me. My whole life, it's a lie. Who is Liam Foster? And why can't I remember anything?" Julian looked at her, his eyes red, and she saw the truth. Not anger, not panic. It was sorrow, the sorrow of a man who had carried a secret for too long. He didn't try to deny it. He just sat down, looking at her with a tragic expression. He knew it was time to tell her everything. "You don't want to know the truth," he said, his voice trailing off. "It will destroy you." "I'm already destroyed," Julian, Elara said. "Tell me everything." Julian took a deep breath. He began to tell a story Elara had never imagined. A story full of love, loss, and guilt. Liam Foster, he wasn't a stranger. He was Julian's best friend. They had grown up together. And when Liam met Elara, he fell in love with her instantly. Elara did too. Julian, he also loved Elara. He had loved her from the first moment he met her, but he had kept his feelings a secret. He had witnessed the love between Elara and Liam blossom. He had watched them get married, have 2 beautiful children. He had watched them build a happy life, and he had ached as he watched from afar. But then everything fell apart. Julian, he was the one who found Elara after the fire. He had found her unconscious, trapped under a wooden beam, and he had pulled her out of the inferno. He had saved her. But when he went back to save Liam and the 2 children, it was too late. The house had collapsed, burying them all. Elara, she had lost everything. Her life had been shattered. Julian continued the story, each word like a knife cutting into Elara's heart. After the fire, Elara had fallen into a deep state of psychological shock. She had total amnesia, a dissociative amnesia, a defense mechanism of her mind to protect her from the immense pain. She didn't remember Liam, didn't remember Leo, didn't remember Mia. She didn't remember anything about her life before. Julian had taken care of her in the first days. He had watched her suffer, desperate, unable to remember who she was. He, haunted by the pain and guilt of not being able to save Liam's family, made a terrible decision. He decided not to tell her the truth. He decided to let her believe she was a completely different person. He created a new life for her. He bought a new apartment, took her everywhere, introduced her to his friends as if they had known each other for a long time. He had told his close friends that Elara was an old acquaintance who had gone through an accident and needed help. He had deceived everyone, and more importantly, he had deceived Elara herself. "I wanted to protect you," Julian said, his voice trembling. "I didn't want you to have to live with that pain. I wanted you to be happy. And I loved you, Elara. I had loved you for so long, and I couldn't bear to see you suffer." He had told her the falling accident story to explain the scar on her arm, a scar he had tried to get rid of, but failed. The wooden box, the photo, he had kept them. He had intended to throw them away 1,000 times, but he couldn't. They were the only pieces of evidence of a life he had stolen from her. Now Elara understood. The photo, the fractured memories, the scar on her arm, they were all fragments of a tragic past. She wasn't a woman without a past. She had a past full of love, happiness, and tragedy. Elara looked at Julian, the man who had hidden this terrible secret. She felt a strangely mixed emotion. On one hand, she felt an unforgivable betrayal. He had built her life on a lie. On the other hand, she also saw his desperation, his love, and his ultimate pain. He had protected her. He had loved her so much he was willing to hide such a big secret. And now, Elara stood at a crossroads. Continue her life, a life built on a lie, but full of Julian's love? Or search for the truth, search for her lost family, and live with that pain? The answer was not easy. Her life had been stolen once, and now she had to decide how she would live. The secret has been revealed, but the story is not over. The battle between love and truth, between the past and the present. It will never truly end. If you have been captivated by this thrilling story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the Forgotten Ties channel, and turn on notifications to not miss our next mysterious and captivating stories. See you soon.